and welcome to another scintillating. That's the word you used the
Yes,
last
that's
time.
the word we
Another
use now.
resplendent episode of.
Yes. Oh, nice. Do you
I
have?
just
Are you
learned that.
looking at a dictionary right now?
No, no,
You were
no.
looking down.
Yeah, I was looking at my microphone.
Oh, okay.
I have it here this time. I recorded
Yeah.
without the microphone the last time too, but it was good.
Yeah.
No, there's this random bullshit feature that they pushed on LinkedIn right now, and they make you put words to your headline. And I made a joke the other day that I would put resplendent, chaklificent, scintillating. I cannot even say that word, and that's why I found out about resplendent. I googled it.
Oh, that's cool. Why
But
would you ever put those stuff in your headline in
yeah, like it
LinkedIn?
makes no sense. Like another useless feature. But welcome to another episode of Standard Deviation Podcast, episode 9, I think. Yes,
Or thereabouts?
yes, 9 or 10. It depends when you're listening to
Yeah.
it.
We don't even know what the sequence is. That's what makes this exciting. We don't know when this is going to come out.
Yeah, it depends as always. But we're here. We have an amazing guest to talk later with. Simo, you released the CSS Selector
Oh,
course.
yes, I kept my promise. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm Yeah, that was a relief. It wasn't a relief. So I think I've ranted about this before. Like I don't. It's good to have the course out there. I wasn't stressed out about getting the course out, even though it might have sounded like that. I was more stressed about getting it out before we go full steam with our site redesign because that would have
yeah.
just been another bottleneck to handle. So, but yeah, that's been a lot of fun working on the site. It's like
What type
I've
of
never
feedback are
before.
you getting on the course so far?
Good, I guess, but seems like people are very, maybe they're just being kind to me, but they're holding back their criticism with all our courses. I mean, we get a decent amount of feedback in general, and some of it is really specific, which I always appreciate. Like, in the JavaScript course, we might get feedback like, I would have maybe used this type of method instead of that, and could you justify why you use one over the other? So that's always a fun thing to debate. But it's such a new course. I don't think that many people have even started it yet. So, but I'm of course, if people want to send feedback, please do. I do have to warn the audience that I am the worst feedback handler in the world. Like I refuse it. I absolutely refuse any criticism against my craft. I do no wrong. I am always perfect. I make no mistakes. If there is a mistake, it's not because of me. So I would just tell people, don't waste your time by giving me feedback. So that's my opinion. But the official party line of Simmer is that please do share your feedback because we use it to improve our courses when necessary. But you will be personally insulting me if you give me negative feedback. So just keep that in mind.
Sorry, that
Like
was funny.
I'm only half joking. Like I'm really really bad with feedback. I am completely set in my ways. It's I don't really read any industry literature either because I don't I really don't want other people to allude to me maybe being wrong in something, and I want to find that out myself. So I'm just yeah I can be a very difficult person to coexist with, but I'm still married after almost 10 years, so I guess something's working out.
Something's good, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I wanted to give also because we were just talking about this when we started recording. A shout to Kelly Wharton because she is celebrating 10 years of founding the Test and Learn community. And
Yes.
anyone listening, they should go and check the episode notes and sign up for this community. It's very warming and welcoming, and a lot of great conversations about A/B testing and research and all the sorts. And me and Simo will take over that event with Chanel Moulin and Lucas Vermeer, and we're just gonna standard deviate it. And
Nice.
yeah, that's all I have to put. Thank you for listening, everyone. That's all I had.
Mic drop.
That's all I had
This
for
was the end of
today.
season 2 of the Standard Deviation podcast. We will see if we'll return next year.
Next year, yeah. But seriously, though, check the episode notes. You will find out how to get into this community, how to connect with Kelly, and how to participate in the event in the case this airs.
But we'll see.
Yeah, it depends on the time I have. I have to go to London next week for a week.
Mhm.
and it's gonna be a lot of meetings. And then when I'm back, I promise I'm not gonna take any more things to do. I always say that.
That's good.
I've been saying
Yeah.
that for a long time. But
Take
anyway,
it easy.
yeah, taking it easy. Anyway, shouts to Kelly and
Yes.
Simo. I wanted to show you because like you've been completely judging my music choices in the last
Yeah.
period, and I might have to give you the opportunity to select songs for the Simo ad, and let's see if this one. I stole that from Pip Laya from CXO because he was using this bouncy ones for his ads. You don't. You look like
That
you don't like this one either.
no, that sounds like something that would play in the background when you're doing like a spinning program on the Peloton bike or something. That sounds like the 1 2 1 2 1 2 keep it uphill 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 downhill downhill. That sounds exactly like the kind of beat that you. It was nice. It was nice. Very kind of.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes. So Simmer is a little online course platform that you might have already heard about, and hopefully, because that would mean that attribution works, and we'll be talking about that in today's episode as well. Um, yeah, so we do online courses for technical marketing, and we are presently trying to define what technical marketing means, and we'll have more information to share about this hopefully in the near future. But in any case, we have a bunch of online courses. They're all self-paced, split into bite-sized chunks, so you can watch them while eating or going to the bus or taking the bus, or even in the bathroom if that's your thing. Um, and if you want a discount, we can offer you one. Just by listening to this podcast, you will know that there's a discount code called Deviate. That's Deviate, that gives you 10% off an individual course purchase. And we are working on updating our old courses and creating new courses all the time, all the merry time. And
Cool.
yeah,
And for the ones that were asking me on LinkedIn, the discount code is just for individual purchases of
yes,
courses. It's not for bundles. Because now
yeah,
it's my turn to say that because now people started asking me. It's like,
yeah.
it's like
Leave Juliana alone. She doesn't work for
I
Simmer. If you
don't
have
know.
questions about Simmer, you can ask me. But and please don't ask me on LinkedIn. I'm extremely hostile to direct messages on LinkedIn, even if they're like related to my business. But we do have like a support. We do have a contact us page on the Simmer website, for example, or you can ping us in Twitter, whatever works for you. So we could do bundle discounts as well, but bundles are already quite heavily discounted, so it doesn't really
It
make
makes
sense
no
to do an
sense.
additional 10% for us. It makes a lot of sense for you, of course. But yeah, we do all these like arbitrary marketing campaigns throughout the year, so around Black Friday and maybe if my aunt's birthday or something, we'll do it as well or something. But you know all these important days of the year.
What about the
um,
technical marketing free course that you mentioned you're working on? How is that going?
This is such a lovely podcast because you keep asking me questions about Simra, and I get to talk about our company, and
No, but
people
like
are probably
it's no, seriously though, because I
yeah,
just promoted my blog article again last week, and I updated some stuff into it because it's a constant. That's the pain in the ass. You always have to update content, and
well, you
something
don't no, you
changes.
don't have to. You don't have to. Many people don't, but like if you're diligent and you want to do a good job, then yes, you do. like you,
Yes, I
when
have to. Yeah.
yeah, like when we talk with Tina, the idea of like documentation debt is always present. But luckily, like many of the topics, like under technical marketing, like you can write a guide like that with evergreen content that doesn't need to be updated. Like it's just fixed.
Yeah.
If you go into like user interface level with screenshots and stuff like that, you have to kind of question, is this a fundamentals guide anymore, or is this more about like deep diving into platforms? So like the content we've been creating now with the like this, we're tentatively calling it technical marketing 101, is really a kind of a walkthrough of it comprises modules. So there's a module for technical SEO, there's a module for conversion optimization, a module for tag management, module for data and analytics, and so on, and web development and privacy and whatever else is relevant. And we're trying to build it like user experience first, so it actually has to be fun to take the course. Because I know that building simmer courses and building online courses for CXL and any other, it's it's fun for me as the instructor because I get to talk about stuff I know about, but it might not be fun for the student because they are often, these curricula are they're complicated, they're
Stuffy. Yeah.
nested, yeah, they're stuffy. And so building this course is so cool because we don't have an obligation to, give the person their money's worth. We don't have to be like this perfect deep dive into every single thing under the sky. We can be very superficial and we can focus on just making a really pleasant experience. So what we're doing right now is trying to figure out like how do we tell all the necessary bits and pieces about tag management in a content piece that takes 10 minutes to digest, for example. So that's the challenge. And it's very much an exercise of writing text that is prosaic, so it's nice to read. It has short sentences, topical sentences. It has only a few thoughts per paragraph. So a lot of like academic rigor to it. And at the same time, we're working with like building diagrams and building animations and just doing it working with typography, working with different fonts. And that's just so inspiring. Like you can take a really dull text and just add some additional paragraph spacing and then just
Yeah.
change the fonts around and suddenly it becomes a really interesting text. So it's just been a lot of fun from a content creation perspective. So it's just churning that content out has been so rewarding.
That's good
It's going to be
because
interesting to see what happens. Yeah, because we don't have a solid business plan for the content. It's going to take a lot of time for us to build it, and it's going to cost quite a bit because we're doing like all this new site functionality for it. But I think it's just like the guiding idea here is that we always wanted Simmer to be an informational portal first and then a revenue generation second. So that's why we have the newsletter. Always we try to be informational. And then we have like the GTM skill test, which is free. And now we're going to have this, which is also free. So it's just really, really cool to put something back out into the community with no strings attached. Like we haven't exactly agreed on this yet, but there's probably not going to be any like no signups or anything. You could just
oh,
start
I'm
taking the
gated.
content however you want.
That's
And
really cool.
yeah, and there's no, of course, like we'll take every opportunity we can to upsell. So you're going to see like banners.
Of
Okay, so
course.
you just read a text on JavaScript. Did you know that we have a JavaScript course? But we're not going to force you to click through that bullshit, like just to get to the content. So it's just fun to, yeah, I think it's just fun to give back. That's just the feel. It feels really, really good to write that content. Let's put it like this.
That's why I asked you because not because you're sponsoring the podcast. It's just that I've been thinking a lot about my content lately, and I was thinking about yours. And I think it's like such a rewarding thing to write articles or write content for people and help them. And like it makes you even put more work in towards making better experience for reading. Like I had somebody that commented that I didn't use enough screenshots, or then that I didn't put like the steps very specific for them to understand. So I found out about this tool called Tango. And
Yeah.
Tango takes like in real time the screenshots of everything that you do, and then you can blur things out, and then you can
Oh,
put that.
nice.
Yeah, and then you can put that in the article. So now I'm thinking about the GTAG article that I wrote, that I want to do that with Tango, so then I can just hide the IDs and everything else that I don't want to share. So that's why I asked you, because I saw on Measure Slack and people got excited and I got excited. So I think it's super rewarding to just give back to the community, and
Yeah.
very excited to see it soon. Um, but our guest today, yeah, we have also a guest again. And this is somebody that you know better than me, but I also got the chance to meet at Measure Camp US online. It was a very nice virtual gathering and of people that you don't normally see in Europe, because obviously they're in the United States. But it was very cool to meet him. And he also is a content creator. He has a newsletter. He has now a podcast, and he's been talking a lot about marketing mix modeling. And I have to admit to you, Simo, I know fuck all about marketing mix modeling. So
Yeah.
our guest today, it's Jim Gianoglio, and I hope I'm saying his name right.
Well, you know what? This is actually, yeah, so LinkedIn has this feature where you can add your own name
Let's
pronunciation
see
to
if he
it. And
has
Jim
it.
has actually done this.
Oh, and
So
let's see
it's
it
very
live.
helpful. I
Let's do
actually think
this live.
yeah.
Ignoring 300 unread messages on LinkedIn. Uh-oh. Oh, fuck, I was so far off. Did you hear it too?
No, it didn't come through, but it sounds like Jim Gianoglio, Jim
Genolio.
Gianoglio. Yeah.
Genolio.
I think I have to do that pronunciation thing too. Like so many people butcher my name. Or have I
Yours is
done it already?
simple.
No, I haven't done it. Well, it's simple for a European, but it's not simple or it's simple for anyone with a like non-Germanic language, you know.
Yeah, you don't have it. I need to. I mean, with me, it's everyone is gonna.
Hey, it
Uh,
would be so fun just to like, you know, it says it's like Simo Ahabab, then you do the pronunciation like completely wrong. Like something like Sumi Ihivi and something. And see how many people start using that. That would be fun. Yeah, I'll do that.
let's do that. Let's do that. And next time when we
Oh
record
man,
an
hacking
episode.
LinkedIn. Then we could do what is it that people do now? These PDF shares of
Oh
how to
my
hack your
god.
LinkedIn pronunciation.
Oh my god, I did a PDF too. It was so embarrassing, but it was 1 year of standard deviation podcast, and I couldn't put everyone on the same image. You know how hard it is to do.
Yeah.
I'm yeah. So I actually that's how I started my post. I cannot believe I'm posting a PDF on LinkedIn. That's exactly how I started it. Well, it was 1 year. I was actually very happy about. It's been 1 year. I started this on my own. I'm doing it now with you. I think yeah, I'm excited about this podcast
It's a
and
very, very cool milestone.
yeah, and it's really cool, that we found like a formula and people like it. And I just want to say thank you to all the people that message me
Yes.
and just the nice word and the kind words because it takes a lot of time to put this content out. So thank you so much for listening. And if you want to do something for us, leave us a review on Spotify or podcast because that would help us reach more people.
Yes,
If
but no negative feedback, thank you.
But no negative.
Yeah. If you don't have like less than a 5-star review, don't bother. Like why would you even do that? Why would you do
Yeah.
that to us?
Because I will find you and I'll figure
Yes.
out who you are.
We will find you and we will make you turn those 2 stars into 5 stars.
Awesome. Well, now let's make sure we bring Jim in because he's anxiously waiting in the lobby. So let's have him on.
Yes, we have Jim in the house. Yeah. So first of all, welcome to the podcast. We already butchered your name in the intro before we found your helpful LinkedIn soundbite. What made you record that? Like, what was the interaction that what was the straw that broke the camel's back?
I don't. I just see new features and tools, and I do them. So when I
Oh,
found
that's
out
very
that
that's
like,
very
oh, we can
critical of
like
you.
record our name, we can, and a name like Genolio doesn't roll off the tongue when you just look at the letters
Yeah.
next to each other. They don't really like make sense. So, fun side story to go on a tangent. That's actually not my given last name. It's my wife's last name. So when we
Oh
got
wow.
married, I took her last name. My maiden name is Tullis. So a little easier to
Okay.
pronounce, but
Yeah.
got
Tullis.
to get used to the Italian last name.
Wow. So okay, that's very cool. I mean, you've actually found a useful LinkedIn feature, which is always worth celebrating. Yeah, but it was very helpful in us trying to avoid
Embarrassing.
further
Yeah.
butchering of your name.
Yes.
So Jim, you are of course well known in the digital analytics industry. You've been around for a while, and now let's start right away with your latest content creation adventures. What have you been working on over the last year?
Oh, so a couple of things actually. So the last year, just about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, I started a newsletter, MMMhub.org, and it's kind of focused on marketing mix modeling and tangential related marketing measurement topics. And it started off with, I had probably, 4 or 5 dozen tabs open in my browser all the time. And some things that I had wanted to read later and other things that I wanted to keep referencing. And I said,
Mm.
this is, my computer was going so slowly. I had to do something right, to fix this. And most normal people would just create a bookmark folder in their browser And I thought, well, that's crazy. I don't want to just bookmark them. I want to create a whole website for them. So, of course, the natural thing to do. So I put up a website that had all of the links as resources, and you could kind of search and filter and all these fun things. Just a fun little side project. And at the last minute, I thought, well, maybe I'll throw a sign up form if someone wants to like give me their email address so I could maybe do a newsletter or something. So I did that as sort of a last minute. And then, within the first couple of weeks had 20, 30 people sign up. And I thought, oh no,
Nice.
now I have to actually do this. And then Simo, you made it worse when you plugged it in your Simmer newsletter.
Yeah.
And that drove like another 50, 60, 70 subscribes. And then I
Oh, I'm
was,
really sorry about that.
so it was like, 100 people. And I thought, geez, I have to really like do this and take it seriously, somewhat seriously, not
Yeah.
completely seriously. So yeah, that was about a year ago. And then, been doing it ever since. It's been great fun and exposes me to a lot of other people and content and articles out there and YouTube videos. So kind of keeps me sharp a little bit as well. Um,
What's your process for it? Like, do you keep collecting links into a folder, and then you just kind of when it's time to write the newsletter, you put it out and you write your own thoughts with those?
yeah, more or less. I still have kind of a really long Google sheet of all of the content that I've looked at or included. Yeah, I usually just try to keep 4 or 5 articles up for the next week's newsletter, and then read through it, write a brief intro or content, kind of a summary of what it is, why it's useful, and then send it out.
So we'll talk about marketing mix modeling in a bit, but before we do, is it a topic that you find easy to find fresh sources for? Like, do people talk about it that much?
You know, I feel like it's getting easier. It wasn't always like it sometimes took a lot of searching. I have a Feedly account where I kind of look for content with certain
Yeah,
keywords. In the beginning, I just had a whole backlog of stuff that I could kind of go to, but when that dried up, it was sometimes hard to find stuff, but it's out there, and I feel like especially
yeah,
now, a lot more people are talking about it as things are shifting in the way of marketing measurement with Apple and iOS 14.5 and privacy
yeah,
regulations, all the stuff that we're all very familiar with, kind of taking away our data. And we need to, everyone's kind of saying, well, there's this marketing mix modeling thing that people have been doing for decades. Maybe we should try that. So yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of content out there.
Okay. Well, should we jump right in? So
Yeah, like what is it? Because I was just telling Simo 5 minutes ago that I know fuck all about about it. Like I swear I'm honest. I'm a very honest person, but tell us what it is,
All
plain
right.
and
So
simple.
I'll give you sort of a one-liner description, and then I'll try to paint a picture to sort of simplify it. So at its simplest, it's just a statistical model. And it looks for patterns between marketing spend and sales or whatever conversion you're trying to get to. So the example that I've been workshopping lately is to just think about it at its absolutely most simplest form. Imagine you have a line graph, a time series chart, right? And you have a blue line that indicates your sales over time. Every day, sales by day over time, like the line graphs we see in Google Analytics all the
yeah,
time, and it's like sessions by day, and this time it's sales by day. So you have maybe some spikes and some dips in that line. Maybe it's higher during the week and lower on the weekends. Some seasonality built into there. So that's the blue line. And then you have the red line, which is, let's say let's again, keeping it simple, you're spending money in a single channel. Maybe you're doing Facebook ads. And so the red line is how much you spend every day in Facebook ads. And it has its, spikes and dips, and maybe you spend more on this day and less on that day. And so you're looking at these two lines, the blue line and the red line. And humans are just naturally gifted pattern seekers, right? We see patterns in data all the time, especially when they don't even exist, right? We're just kind of, it's built into our brains. Like maybe it's part of like that lizard brain that helped us evolve. I don't know, but we can see these patterns, and especially if we're just looking at these two lines, we see, oh well, on this day we doubled our Facebook spend because we had this promotion going on. Oh, and look, the blue line went up too. And then we see like, oh, there was this period of 3 days where our ads were flagged as being, against terms of service or whatever, and they took down our ads for 3 days. Oh, and look, when our ads were down, our revenue dipped a little bit too, right? We can see those patterns in the data. So that, in essence, that is what marketing mix modeling is doing. It's just using math to do it. It's building a model that says, oh, when this channel goes up, revenue goes up by this much, or when it goes down by this much. Now, that's, again, the very simple example where you just have a single channel that you're working on. Obviously, you don't need to do marketing mix modeling when there's only one channel because there's no mix. But where it starts to get more complex is when you're spending across 12 or 15 or 20 channels, and that includes offline TV, radio, out of home, and online channels, and
Yeah.
CTV and paid ads and all that.
So you mentioned like data gaps from things like ITP and the inability to build cross-site audiences. So marketing mix modeling is some kind of a gap solution for that?
Yeah, and that's the great thing. There are no gaps because the data you need for marketing mix modeling is data that we already have, right? It's
Mm.
not something that will ever be taken away by GDPR or CCPA or anything that Apple does. Like, it's literally, here's how much I spent in this channel on this day, and possibly how many impressions or some sort of a gauge of awareness or impressions. And then also the other side of the coin is the dependent variable, which is what were my sales on that day or what were my conversions on that day, right? Apple's not going to take that away from you, right? That's data that you have in all of your channels that you spend on and your backend
Mm.
system that reports revenue. It doesn't rely on any kind of user level data. We don't have to stitch user data together. So it's sort of the answer that we've been recommending as as the data goes away. It's another tool that you can use if you're not already.
And do you find it makes it easier to talk to stakeholders when you have that kind of data? What's the chance of somebody looking at a modeling tool? Because with GA we had attribution modeling and the idea that you could take a single path and just manipulate how those different touch points appear on it. And it was often a very nice tool to turn a really badly performing campaign into a well-performing campaign by just moving from last touch to first touch and not explaining what you did. Is marketing mix modeling enough of a transparent system that you can avoid that kind of manipulation of the model just to get a better message across?
Uh, I would say no, right? You can still manipulate the model based on transformations you make to the data, based on what data you include, based on your interpretation of the model output. It's still, to use the term like black box, right? It's black boxy,
Yeah.
right? You're still using multilinear regression or Bayesian statistics to basically build this model, this very complex model with a lot of transformations built into it that the typical marketer or CMO isn't CMO, not CMO. Uh, isn't going to like go to that level of detail of like exactly what's happening. So it can be manipulated. Um,
Yep.
and I would say, kind of to your earlier question too, um, how to deal with stakeholders. It's a completely different mindset shift. Um,
Mm.
I think we've been sort of lulled into this idea over the past decade because of attribution tools like in Google Analytics and other attribution modeling tools that give us first touch, last touch, linear, time decay, data driven attribution, all of that. And it's always been sort of premised on this idea that we can track everything now. We can track the user across all their touch points, and you know we've had this idea in our head that that was truth because we're collecting all of this data, and there's some idea of accuracy or preciseness to that because of the data that was there, and it's always been a fallacy, right? Even before GDPR and before Apple started kind of mucking around and things and taking our data away, even before all of that, people were still using multiple devices. They were using their phone and
Mm.
then their laptop and their work computer to go to your site and do this research before they actually bought. And like people just kind of ignored that. And they're like, "Oh, well, look at all these purchases that came from direct. Oh, I guess I don't know how they found out about us, but there it is." We could just kind of ignored that, and I feel like we're coming into a time now where I'm seeing a lot of people talk about this more,
The
and
dark social thing where people come
Mm.
from, you cannot attribute them to anything. So, what's his
exactly.
name? Chris Walker talks a lot about this, and he was saying basically that a lot of people come, from different places, but nobody's asking them. Nobody does that qualitative part where you're asking people like, where did you first hear about us, and how much that changes, I guess, having, exiting that little black box that you put yourself into.
Exactly. Yeah. Survey data is another good tool to sort of, get another perspective on what might be happening. And that's the thing, is that everything that we use is incorrect, right? We were sort of, for the past 10 years, thinking, oh, like, multi-touch attribution, that's given me
Yeah.
truth. It never was. That was always a fallacy. It was wrong, right? But all models are wrong. Some are more
Some are
useful.
useful.
I forget who said that quote, but it's great.
Yeah.
And we have to use all of these different tools to sort of triangulate what we think is actually happening. Um, and
But
yeah,
all these channels that are appearing every day for digital marketing, how does this affect the way you would do this?
yeah, I think so along with sort of using all of the tools and trying to triangulate what might be happening, you also have to think about which tool is best for which purpose, right? So I went for a period where I was saying, oh, multi-touch attribution is dead. It's garbage. All the data is going away. We can't use it for anything. And I kind of like, I swung a little bit too far, and I've kind of come back a little bit more to center now. It's still currently the best tool that we have, even with all of its limitations, for making day-to-day decisions, which, the channel owners, the specialists who are in there actually creating the ads, choosing the audiences, pushing the ads live, they're in there every day looking at the performance, and they have to decide, do I tweak this message, or do I shut this campaign off, or do I put more money into this campaign that seems to be doing better? And multi-touch attribution is still probably the best tool for that day-to-day guidance, but it's not going to give you good answers when it comes to, your annual budget planning, and you want to say, how much should we spend in this channel versus that channel? If you're using it for that, then you're going to be making some pretty bad decisions.
Would you, I mean, one thing that I think about a lot, and it's like this obsession that marketers have with causation and correlation, and I think sometimes we just want shit to be away, and we're like trying to convince ourselves that what we're seeing is right. But I think in e-commerce, because there is where I spend a lot of time, a lot of e-commerce companies are so much focused on campaign performance and performance metrics and performance, but nobody's actually asking themselves like, why are people buying from us? Like, what causes people to take the leap? Because people don't want to own objects; they just want to make progress in their life, so they choose different types of tools and technologies and products to make progress. So, like, how is that qualitative part added into the mix? And I didn't plan to do this, but like,
Well done, well
how,
played.
thank you.
Yeah. So I was just talking with someone about this the other day, yesterday actually, who they made a big bet on content creation, specifically kind of podcasting, but also doing kind of what we're doing here with the video. And you create this sort of hour-long or 90-minute long form piece of content that you can post on YouTube, and you can post as a podcast, and then you can split that up and make little snippets of video and audio, and you can write articles and Twitter posts and LinkedIn posts and kind of reuse all of that content. And you know the one thing that he was saying was that they've been doing it for about 7 months, and they've noticed that a lot of their the way that people find them is through their podcast, and they do that through surveys, right? That's one of the required questions that they ask whenever someone like fills out a lead form. How did you hear about us? And it's podcasts a lot, which again, you wouldn't know that through Google Analytics, right? It's not going to tell you that someone listened to your podcast and then decided to do a search for your business name and clicked on the organic link or the paid link. But yeah, I think survey data definitely has a, a good place in kind of filling out our knowledge of what might be happening. It's something that often as digital marketers, we don't really get into that because it's sort of outside our wheelhouse. So
I've never understood that survey question. I'm really sorry. Like, maybe I have some weird amnesia, but if a brand asks me how did I first hear about them, I have no clue. Like, even if it just happened like yesterday, I might question myself: did I really hear about them yesterday for the first time? Do you think that
yeah,
there's a like? And I tend to choose the answer that's kind of the coolest in the list. I don't think what I actually. I just think like what would be really cool way to find out about this brand. So qualitative, at least for a sample of one, which is me, I think qualitative data does have its own
I wouldn't do lists like when we added this survey when I was at CXO, and we added this type of survey when where did you first hear about us? We it made it open text, and a lot of it was Pep's podcast, How to Win, LinkedIn, Facebook group, something. Even you were there, Simo. Simo's newsletter. Like people would just like write is random shit. Sometimes it's blah blah blah. So the data is not very clean. But if you code surveys in a way, then you can work with a cleaner set of
Yeah,
data.
but I'm just wondering, like bias inference that you tend to remember the most prominent touch point, and you might generate like correlate that or like generalize that to be the first time you met the brand, even though you might have found them in ads or organic search many times before.
That's why I
Right,
love
but that
jobs to be done. Sorry.
no,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, but that's valuable too, right? Like we
Yeah.
might ask the question, "How did you first hear about us?" But if they don't remember, and maybe they give you the thing that they remember the most, even if it's
Mm,
not the first, that's still valuable. It's the thing that sticks out the most in their mind, which might
Yeah.
be the
yeah.
more valuable, advertising or activity that you're doing.
Yeah. True. True. So, so how much of an evangelist are you for marketing mix modeling? Would you say that it's the solution to all our current data woes? Would you say that it's impossible to do marketing properly without considering that?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Leading questions. I know these are
I'm
not in the
gonna,
script. I'm going totally off script here. I'm putting you in a
yeah,
hard
I'm
place.
gonna, put my flag in the ground and say, yeah, if you're not doing it, you're a horrible, horrible human being,
Oh,
and you
nice.
should
I
change
love
careers immediately.
absolutes. Yes, I appreciate that. I very much appreciate it. We only believe in absolutes. We're like the Sith in this podcast.
It's the 4th of May today when
It
we're
is.
recording. So
Yeah.
May
Oh, it
the
is.
May the
Hey,
fourth be
that
with you.
reminds me, completely tangential. I'll let you get back to the answer but I just want to say something that I just noticed that tomorrow on May 5th is the 10-year anniversary of when I registered my blog domain. I just wanted to say that
Wow.
out here because I want to say it
10
proud
Whoa.
tomorrow.
years.
Yeah.
That's
That's staying
2013
awesome.
was a
power.
good year. Got my blog, got my wife.
Nice. You bagged it.
Sorry, that was possessive. I got married. My wife got me, unfortunately, for her.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Anyway, yes. So okay. So you've just flayed everyone alive who doesn't use marketing mix modeling. You're just about to justify your opinion.
Oh, I have to justify it? Oh, geez.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, we also have this scientific method here that you
Yes.
do need to provide some evidence.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and this is the part where I backpedal. If you're if you're a
Of
company
course you
that's
do.
if you're just doing Google Ads and Facebook, and you're kind of maybe early stage, a million revenue or less, or maybe 1 to 10, and you just kind of focus on a couple of channels, then it's probably not really necessary to go all in on marketing mix modeling. But past a certain stage of either marketing spend or number of channels that you're spending on, or a combination of those two, y- at some point you're deciding how much am I spending in this channel. And if you're not using data to help you decide that, you're just kind of going on what you think or what you feel or your gut, your hunch. Um, and hey, if you've been marketing for a long time, your hunch is probably pretty good. But why wouldn't you want to double check with some data and use marketing mix modeling to say, well, we ran the data, we ran the model. This is what we think the true incrementality of this channel is. This is what the incremental ROI is. We think you should maybe pull back in this channel a little bit and invest more in this channel because we see that the level of diminishing returns, you haven't really expanded in this channel enough. You have a lot of room for growth there, whereas this other channel maybe you've kind of already tapped out, right? You might not necessarily know that without You might have a little bit of a hunch on it, but you want to give yourself as much kind of backing up your feelings as you can before you go and say, okay, I'm going to spend $3.5 million this year, and here's where I'm going to spend it.
But let's talk a bit more about what qualifies you to do this type of analysis. Because when I think about think like, okay, I have all these channels. I have email, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and I'm investing a lot of money. And then I'm looking at my unit economics, and I look at the acquisition cost and the customer lifetime value, and I see that the ratio is not good. I start, freaking out and stop ads channel. So like here is something that if you are big enough, right? If you have enough data, you could do things like RFM segmentation that helps you look at your historical data and then use those models to, I guess, have better audiences. But to use RFM, you have to have millions of clients. In that's database marketing. You have to have enough data. So I would like to talk a bit even more about what qualifies you as a company to use this model in your business, but also like if you are a digital analyst and you want to start with this in your company, like what you should be aware of. A bit more on that if possible.
Yeah. So,
Very loaded question, I'm sorry.
um, so if you're an analyst and you're trying to decide if you should be doing this or not, versus like an RFM analysis.
Yeah, like what qualifies you as a company to use this? Because with RFM you need to be a bank or a telecom company or a huge retailer. Like you need millions in transactions, and you cannot do RFM if you have 10,000 customers. That would be, you should call them probably better.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that there's not, I'm trying to think of a good rule of thumb. Like, oh, if you spend X amount of dollars in marketing across X number of channels, you could probably come up with some decent numbers there as sort of a general rule of thumb. Maybe, if you're
Yeah.
if one way to back into this is that, what's the cost of building the modeling and maintaining the model, and compare that to how much you're currently spending on marketing. And, there's some big consulting firms that put out numbers like you should spend X% of your marketing budget on analysis or analytics tools.
Yeah.
So let's say if you're spending 5 million a year and you spend 1% of that on analysis, right? That can give you kind of a ballpark for how much you should be spending. And if MMM fits into that, sure, great. If you're spending less than that, maybe it doesn't quite. Um,
Yep.
the other way to kind of approach this too is what's your industry and your business model like? Because for a lot of companies, marketing mix modeling isn't necessarily going to help you. And I'm thinking
Which
here,
types?
yeah, I'm thinking here more B2B, um, large purchases, long sales cycles where you're doing account-based marketing, and you're doing things like going to conferences, and you have large annual events, and you're sponsoring you know certain things that only maybe sports teams or
Mm.
events that only happen occasionally, right? You don't have a lot of signal there. If you have an annual event or you're going to 6 conferences a year, there's really not a lot of signal for that, especially for something that might take 18 months for the sales process. So those are tricky. I don't have a good answer for that. I don't believe that MMM is probably going to be the right answer for those types of situations.
So it would work better if you're investing in channels that the channels themselves can show you a good ROI immediately, like without you having to put too much guesswork into them. For those situations, the MMM model would. MMM model is a tautology, so I won't say it, but MMM would work better.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's more a question of how much data you're getting out of it, how much signal you can get out of it. So if you're doing Facebook or Google Ads, you're getting information back every day about how much you spent, and you can see how your revenue changed every day. So um, as far as channels that, like you mentioned, something where you have a sort of immediate ROI, um, that would maybe be a different topic, sort of related. But like if you're testing a new channel, you don't know what that ROI of that channel is, but that's where you can test into it, and that's where randomized controlled trials come into the picture, where you can
Yeah.
actually you can run a test. You can see, okay, we're going to put this much budget toward this new channel and see statistically, did it have an effect? And that kind of gives you your baseline, and then you can start deciding, do we want to put more into it? Maybe do we want to not not participate in that channel if it didn't have an effect?
So what do you think is the vendors who own these channels and rent them to companies who want to advertise on them or do marketing? What is their response to marketing mix modeling? Like, do you see a conflict there from the vendor's point of view? Like, if the marketing mix modeling says that this is the appropriate mix, but then the vendors, of course, want you to go full steam with their platform, and they might want to show you different types of information or same information packaged in a different way. Have you seen any movement or shifts in the mental models that vendors offer?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is funny because I was just listening to a podcast yesterday where I forget which one it was, but they were talking about how with multi-touch attribution and data-driven attribution and Google Analytics, lo and behold, it always seems the answer is more paid search, right?
Yes.
And like, there's this conspiracy theory that Google has this black box algorithm that they've tweaked the signals to always say more paid search. I don't think that's happening. They're using Shapley values and Markov chain Monte Carlo, and like there is some knowledge there to how it's actually working. But the one interesting thing around how vendors are viewing marketing mix modeling is that I think they're starting to embrace it and really start to push it. And we see this with Facebook or Meta, whatever we want to call them. They several years ago they put out this open source package called Robin. It's an R language, and that's kind of currently probably the leading sort of open source package for doing marketing mix modeling. Leading in terms of that has the most kind of fully robust documentation, the most feature set in terms of being able to do ad stock transformations and diminishing returns and all that. Um, and they put that out. I want to say it was in 2020 in October. I might be wrong on the date. Don't quote me on that. But 3 years ago, um, right around the times that I think they started to see, and this is just conjecture on my part, but I think they started to see what was happening with regulatory concerns and privacy concerns, and with Apple potentially taking away their ability to do this, heavy machine learning user level type inference, and so they want to give people a tool that they can use to better understand how their channel is performing. Google's done the same thing back in 2017, 2018. They released a bunch of um, academic papers on Bayesian marketing mix modeling, and they have open sourced their library, which is in Python, called Lightweight MMM. It's not an official Google product, but it's put out by Google.
Maybe you're so kind to share those links with us too.
I absolutely will.
Yes, we will scrape them and add them to the show notes. You've so you're at Bounteous and you've been there for a while. You were there when it was called Lunametrics and for a long time. Have you found as a consultant? Have you found in your clients that it's easy to explain these new trends such as marketing mix modeling and kind of add that to your product, your service repertoire, and make it turn it into a believable approach to data?
Yeah, so I think there are two parts to that. I think number one, yes, it's easy to explain these trends. I think every client that comes to us or prospect that comes to us asking about attribution, they're coming to us, and we're getting more and more of this because of iOS 14.5, and they're saying, "Hey, how are we going to handle this? We used to use this attribution model, and now we're not sure if it's going to work." And so I think they're finally aware of privacy regulations and ITP and ATT and all of that stuff has really kind of come to the forefront, and they're starting to wonder how are we going to deal with it. So it takes very little convincing of the problem, right? They understand what the problem is, and generally they're pretty accepting of the solutions that we propose, which usually do include some form of marketing mix modeling or advanced analysis. I think the hard thing to sell is where you have marketers who have gotten into that mindset of attribution modeling and thinking of it as not making that distinction between what attribution is doing versus what they're trying to answer, which is incrementality. And it's like this. It's weird that this nuanced difference that I think I had a lot of problems kind of separating those in my head initially. And it's easy to kind of slip back into that mindset of like, oh, Google's attribution, data driven attribution told me that this channel had this ROI. And that's not what it's actually telling you, right? It's attribution is backward looking. It's saying we had 1,000 sales and here were the channels that came before it. And we're going to give credit to all 1,000 of those sales to these channels, regardless of if those sales would have happened anyway.
Now you have a perfect stage to explain the concepts that you had difficulties with for so long. So let's talk
That's
about
what I wanted to
incrementality.
ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay.
Incrementality. I feel like I want that to be the buzzword, right? We have all these other buzzwords out there that are just garbage, but like incrementality should be the buzzword. That's what people should be talking about.
If you believe it strong enough, it will become a buzzword, Jim.
I will manifest it. Yes.
You will. Yes, you need to whiteboard it.
I don't have a whiteboard here in the room, but I'll
Yeah.
have to get one of those.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff.
But yeah,
Well, tell us.
Oh,
Tell
yeah,
us.
yeah. So yeah, I mean,
We're
so
still waiting. We need to learn this stuff.
yeah, this confusion between attribution and incrementality, right? Like one way of thinking about this is, our marketing or our multi-touch attribution model that we look at, whether that's in Google Analytics or Adobe or wherever, whatever tool we're using, it's saying that, all of these sales are attributed to these channels. And so we can do sort of a mental exercise and say, well, if we literally just shut off every piece of marketing we have today, according to our multi-touch attribution model, our sales would go to zero. And do we think that would actually happen? And most marketers, if they're honest, would say, no, it wouldn't. We would still get some sales, right? And this is the whole difference between, branding and brand awareness and brand marketing versus performance marketing, which that's kind of a separate topic. But for actually, let's maybe dive into that a little bit, right? So, like, let's say, imagine you're a startup, like you just purchased your domain not 10 years ago, but today. You just purchased your shiny new domain today. You put up a website really quickly, and you're selling blue widgets, or you're selling. Let's use a real example.
Why
You're
is it
selling.
always widgets?
I know, right? That's so bland. Let's use an example of you're selling. You created some courses on helping technical marketers be better at their craft,
That's a
and
shit business idea.
so you put up your domain, you have links to your courses, but no one has ever heard of you, no one knows about you, and you're not going to have anyone visiting your site, you're not going to have anyone purchasing or giving you lead information or anything like that. So in that case, you put an ad on Facebook and it's 100% incremental, right? That's like the one case where your marketing is 100% incremental. And if you turn that marketing off, you go back to zero. But that's not where most of us are, right? And anyone who is our client or anyone who has budget to hire an agency or consultancy to do this, they've reached a level where, that's not the case. And so we have to be aware that, all of our marketing is not incremental. Some portion
Yeah.
of it is wasted because, the user, they already knew about us. They did their research. They looked at our site. Maybe they clicked on some paid ads. Maybe they clicked on some social ads, whatever. And then they finally come to that conclusion. They decided, I'm going to go buy this product. So they go to Google, they type in the company's name, they click on the paid search ad, and they purchase. That paid search ad literally had zero um, uh, reasons why we bought, right? It didn't affect us at all. If it wasn't there, we would have clicked on the organic listing. And
Right.
so, we have to start thinking about it that way, right? What's the incrementality that ad had? In that case, maybe zero. Brand search gets picked on a lot here, because oftentimes, people think, oh, well, if I'm not bidding on my branded search terms, then they're just going to click on the organic listings. It's not always the case that branded search is not incremental. I've seen cases where branded search actually does provide incremental conversions, but often that's the kind of the first one to look at. But yeah, we really need to start looking at how much incremental conversions are coming from our marketing, not just, oh, this thing happened before they bought, so I have to give credit to it. That's kind of the wrong way of thinking it.
That was a very good run through. And also, we very much appreciate that you checked yourself, that you were about to sidetrack, and then you decided to go all in, and that's always very appreciated.
You should teach me how you do that.
I don't know
Or
that
follow the side, but you do, yeah,
I didn't even know that I did it, but thanks.
yeah. It's always, yeah. That's the best type. So we're gonna start wrapping up. I think it's been.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of links to share in the show notes. First of all, Jim, please plug your stuff. You have the
Podcast.
Yes, we didn't get to the podcast. We interrupted your history tour rudely by talking about current topics. Tell us about the podcast.
Yeah. So, along with the newsletter, I just started a podcast. It's something that I've thought about for a while and kind of halfway talked about it. And then I finally pulled the trigger. I was joking on LinkedIn that I was thinking about starting a podcast, and I asked people to talk me out of it. And unfortunately, everyone talked me into it. They wanted me to do it. So yeah, and then I
Deservedly.
What
had
is
to.
the name of the podcast?
Yeah,
Come
so
on, you have to plug yourself better.
I'm about as bad at plugging myself as Simo is for Simmer. Um, so the podcast
I have
is
a logo here. I have a logo there. Like
yeah, I
it's your
see that
problem,
now.
dude. I'm
That's
really
new.
good at
That's
this.
new. Um, so the podcast is called the Measure Up Podcast. It's sort of a companion to the newsletter, but a little bit more broad, not fully focused on marketing mix modeling, but really about marketing measurement in general. And I talked to some really, really smart people about things like, I talked with Gabriel Franco, who's the founder of Cassandra, which is a marketing mix modeling tool that does use Robin. Facebook's Robin is sort of the underlying technology, but then he puts additional kind of framework and front ends on that. I talked with Mike Taylor, who just released his book, just went live a couple days ago, called Marketing Memetics, which was an interesting topic to get into. And we talked about measurement too, as well, testing, creative, things like that. And I have a couple more episodes lined up coming out in the next week or two with some other really smart people, Michael Kaminsky and Kate Cook. So
That's really
I
cool.
love Kate Cook. She's so cool from Australia. Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Attribution gal.
attribution
I
gal,
know her.
yeah,
And yeah, I like her. She's super smart.
very much, yeah.
Yes. Well,
And
thank
where
you.
else? Yeah, where else can
Yes.
people find you? Where are you?
I'm in most places that people like us are. So the Measure Chat Slack group, which is the best ever. You can find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn. Uh, it's just my name, easy to find. There's only one other Jim Gianoglio out there, and he's actually my father-in-law's cousin, I think. Um, and so yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on
We'll have him over for the next episode.
yeah, I can make a connection.
We'll do like a
Yeah.
Jim Gianoglio themed run of episodes.
Perfect.
All two of you.
Yes. But yeah, Mastodon, I'm on there, and Twitter as well. So first initial, last name, very creative.
Is anyone on Mastodon anymore?
Oh,
Don't people?
of course we are. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm on Mastodon.
I have to get
Yeah.
back there too. I have a
If you're on Measure
profile.
Slack, you get a free account, or you get
I
well,
know.
everybody gets a free account, but you get to join our amazing server.
I am there. It's just I haven't opened it in such a long time. Shame on me. Shame on me.
So, how many times have people made you the really clumsy joke about Hanson Brothers and
Oh yeah, the
yeah,
hub sounds like hub, like bop.
yeah.
Bop, bum,
Yeah,
bum,
yeah.
bum,
I
bum,
bet
bum.
there's an AI who could do a mashup for you of that song and then you can
Yeah,
use it as like a
that
theme
could
for that.
that could work. We could do
I can sing that for you.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'll
When you
record
have
it.
Juliana over as a guest for your podcast, you can both do like a yeah, you can do a duet of it.
that. Okay,
Doesn't
I'm
work as a
down for
duet
that. Yeah.
though. Yeah.
I will sing if you want. I'm a terrible singer.
I only know
Thank you
two
so
words from
much.
that.
Yeah.
I only know two words from that song, and it's and bop.
Bop.
I don't know the rest of the words, so I'll have to get the lyrics.
I don't think anybody. I think it's the
I
biggest
don't think
secret of the
anyone. Yeah.
90s.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do. Okay. So it's.
Jim, it was an absolute. We were really going to have to stop before somebody starts singing. So it was an absolute pleasure to have you over, and hopefully we'll have you over soon when your podcast is a global sensation, and we can say that you were here first, or maybe not first, but almost.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's been an honor to get to talk to you today and to be on your podcast.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for
you.
suffering our silly questions.
Yeah. And see everyone next time. Check the episode notes. And
Yes,
yeah.
lots of good stuff there.